Greetings, welcome back to Sam Bloom's Bulk Goods, where we are discussing abrupt climate change, environmental collapse, disturbances in the force, things gone awry, things fall apart, things are falling apart. As far as the environment goes, if you're paying attention, the point of this channel is to help you all pay attention. I forgot to mention the other night, of course, some of you probably already know, but I did an interview with Hambone from Humpty Dumpty Tribe, which he aired on Tuesday. I have linked that video on this page, the Red Llama music page. So if you go to the home page and scroll down, you'll see the interview if you want to check it out, if you haven't already checked it out. So I am going to officially start migrating this channel over to another channel, and the new channel is going to be called Black Bear News. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to take back the Red Llama music channel for other projects. I originally kind of started this channel to be kind of kind of like a variety kind of thing. Like I wanted to mix music with news. And I originally had people that I interviewed. This is like maybe 2 years ago when I originally started this channel. I was kind of doing a format where I'd kind of hang out with a musician friend of mine or a poet friend of mine, and we'd do like a song, and kind of just talk about, random stuff. And I guess I kind of want to like use this channel for that purpose again, for some other kind of content. What I want to do is put the more hardcore, like environmental news, political action type stuff on a dedicated channel, and that dedicated channel is Black Bear News. So, and I also have a blog that's the Black Bear Party blog, or Black Bear News blog. The entire intention of this whole thing of moving this channel over there is I would like to form kind of like a social action network, or a political action network called the Black Bear Party, at kind of a more even more radically environmental first party than the Green Party. I dig the Green Party. I love the Green Party. I support them. I still think that they are not in touch with how dire the climate change situation is. They are still, I feel like, trying to appease, capitalism as we know it, the industrial civilization as we know it. And I feel like there has to be some kind of political party or movement that is more in touch with the truth of what's going on. And maybe many of you might think that this is completely like spitting into the wind, a complete waste of time. It's too late. Don't worry about it, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel compelled. I feel moved to try and spark some action. So that's why I'm doing this. I don't know if it's going to be confusing for people. It probably will be. I'm sorry if it is. But it is what it is. It's something that I feel that needs to happen. I don't even have 1,000 subscribers on this channel. I've gained over 800 subscribers in a year. So thank you all for hanging out, for stopping by and continuing to stay and continuing to be a part of this channel. The exact same thing is going to go on the other channel, basically. It's probably going to be not much different from this channel, but maybe a little bit of a different feel. I don't know yet. I haven't really. I'm just kind of doing it. I'm just kind of jumping in with both feet, and we'll see how different it gets. So anyways, I'm doing this video. I'm going to post this video on this channel that you're watching, and I'm going to post it on the new channel, Black Bear News. I'm going to link that channel in the description box. Please go over there and subscribe, because I'm going to be doing this dual video upload for maybe a week. I don't know how long, just to kind of get everybody on board, maybe 2 weeks. And then eventually I will scrub probably most of the videos from this channel. If I can figure out a way to put them all over on the other channel, I will. If I can't, I don't have the time to, I just don't have the time to really like get into it. So, I mean, this channel is basically a podcast format anyways. I'm not making these videos kind of to last last forever until the end of time. I'm just, I'm trying to stay current with the news and stay current with the information and kind of like keep people abreast of what's going on. And I've pretty much been repeating the same stuff over and over again for a year. So when I move to the new channel, I probably will repeat the same stuff over and over again on the new channel, and there won't be much difference in content. Only the dates will change, and the names may change as far as who's in the news and what's going on. But we all know what's happening. So yeah, that's going to happen. This channel, as it is right now, will cease to exist in a few weeks, and everything's going to be on Black Bear News. Onward with this video. It's Friday night, and we are getting frost warnings in Southern California, which is, not unheard of, but actually fairly rare for us. We're getting a cold snap because of this polar vortex that actually is hitting us this time. This is affecting my garden. My garden just I started a garden last early summer, and we had such a hot summer that it just limped. I barely kept any of those plants alive. There's a few of those plants still going right now, but I've been planting for the last couple of weeks, pretty systematically. And now this cold, we have a frost warning tonight, so I don't know how many plants are going to survive. I'm going to try and move what I can indoors. It's currently 43 degrees, but it's supposed to get down to like 36. And the reasons for this are from Chicago Tribune: Arctic temperatures soar 45 degrees above normal, flooded by extremely mild air on all sides. While the eastern United States simmers in some of its warmest February weather ever recorded, the Arctic is also stewing in temperatures more than 45 degrees above normal. This latest huge temperature spike in the Arctic is another striking indicator of its rapidly transforming climate. On Monday and Tuesday, the northernmost weather station in the world, Cape Morris Jesup at the northern tip of Greenland, experienced more than 24 hours of temperatures above freezing, according to the Danish Meteorological Institute. How weird is that? Tweeted Robert Rode, a physicist at the University of California, Berkeley. Well, it's Arctic winter. The sun set in October and won't be seen again until March. Perpetual night, but still above freezing. For anybody that doesn't understand what this means, it means very, very bad things. This is not supposed to happen. This is highly unusual. This is extremely abnormal. Warm air is spilling into the Arctic from all sides. On the opposite end of North America, abnormally mild air also poured over northern Alaska on Tuesday. With the temperature at Yukvik previously known as Barrow, soared to a record high of 31 degrees, 40 degrees above normal. Temperatures over the entire Arctic north of 80 degrees latitude have averaged about 10 degrees above normal since the beginning of the calendar year, sometimes spiking over 25 degrees above normal. The normal temperature is around minus 22. Excuse me. These kinds of temperature anomalies in the Arctic have become commonplace in winter in the past few years. The persistence of the above average temperatures is quite striking, tweeted Zach Labe, PhD candidate in climate science at the University of California at Irvine. Some of the most extreme warmth of the year so far is forecast to flood the Arctic in coming days, with a number of areas seeing temperatures that exceed 45 degrees above normal and up to 60 degrees above normal. The mercury at North Pole could well rise above freezing between Thursday and Sunday. The next batch of abnormally warm air is forecast to shoot the gap between Greenland and Northern Europe through the Greenland and Barents Seas. Similar circumstances occurred in December 2016 when the temperature at the North Pole last flirted with the melting point in the dark dead of winter. We documented similarly large jumps in temperature in November 2016 and December 2015. Do you notice a pattern? Arctic sea ice was at its lowest extent on record this past January, according to National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I have sailed boats through the Arctic Sea, but never this time of year, tweeted David Thoresen, an Arctic photographer. It's amazing to watch this unfold. The record-setting temperatures and lack of ice is exactly what scientists have projected over the Arctic for years, and is fundamentally changing the landscape. Arctic shows no sign of returning to a reliably frozen region of recent past decades, NOAA concluded in its Arctic report card published in December. Same kind of news. This is out of Britain from Metro from Tuesday. Britain to be hit by long cold snap as stratospheric warming disturbs jet stream. Freezing winds from Eastern Europe will blast Britain this week as a rare Arctic weather condition causes temperatures to tumble. Forecasters have warned temperatures will feel close to freezing by the end of the weekend, with the cold snap expected last well into March. Overnight temperatures will plunge from 14 C, felt at the start of the week, to -4 C by Sunday, while daytime temperatures will drop to a chilly 3 C. The mercury is set to plummet because of sudden stratospheric warming, a meteorological event that has disturbed the jet stream around the North Pole. Martin Bowles, forecaster of the Met Office, told metro.co.uk the high pressure is going to gradually move northeast over the UK, and eventually by the end of the weekend will reach Scandinavia. That's when we start to get the very cold air from Russia. We're looking at temperatures dropping over the next 4 to 5 days. Sudden stratospheric warming is caused by a huge rise in air temperatures in the area around 18 miles above the North Pole. Mr. Bowles added, the high pressure will be over the whole of the UK this week. There will be very little rain and a fair amount of cold, particularly in the south. There will be sunshine in the north. Temperatures, which are above average at the moment, will drop to below average by the end of the week into Sunday. This is a very big, very cold pool of air that circulates around the North Pole. Sudden stratospheric warming, as it says on the tin, is when the stratosphere suddenly warms. Last week we saw this take place, a sudden jump of around 50 C. So that can disturb the way the cold pool of air moves around the North Pole very high up. So basically, as you all know, there's two polar air masses. One is over the western United States and Canada. The other is over Europe and England, Scandinavia, etc. And it's going to last for a long time, which is crazy. Everything is not only moving strangely, but moving slowly, getting stuck. Here we've been experiencing really crazy high winds over the last like 3 days, which is rare for winds this strong to last for that long, and they are persistent. Right now there's nothing happening, but we get like a couple hours of very strong winds, either early in the morning or late at night, or in the afternoon. And it's quite strange. They're cold winds, very abnormal for Los Angeles especially. Moving on, this is an article I've been wanting to read from February 19th from the New York Times. Animals are losing their vagility, or ability to roam freely. Helena, Montana. Snow comes early to the Teton Mountain Range, and when it does, the white-bottomed pronghorn that live here get the urge to move. Following an ancient rhythm, they migrate more than 200 miles to the south, where the elevation is lower, winter is milder, and grass is easier to find. Come to the spring green-up, they make the second half of the round trip, returning to the Grand Teton National Park. After thousands of years, biologists are concerned about the future of the migration pattern. While there have been efforts to protect the journey, such as highway overpasses and antelope-friendly fences, some new barriers are looming. Most immediate is the prospect of 3,500 new gas wells planned on federal land at the southern end of the pronghorn's migratory path. And then there's the near the challenge is understanding how many holes. Oh, and then there's the nearby Jonah Natural Gas Field, which is already intensively developed. The challenge is understanding how many holes you can punch in the landscape, said Matthew Kaufman, a professor of wildlife biology at the University of Wyoming, before a migration is lost. Room to move is critical for a wide range of species, but it has long been difficult for researchers to capture where and when they travel. But a new and growing field called movement ecology is casting light on the secretive movements of wildlife and how those habits are changing. A global study of 57 species of mammals published in the journal Science has found that wildlife move far less in landscapes that have been altered by humans, a finding that could have implications for a range of issues, from how well natural systems function to finding ways to protect migratory species. The large study has brought together 114 researchers from across the globe who had gathered information from 803 individual animals. They range from the smallest animals that can be collared, pocket mice, to the largest, elephants. Using the GPS collars that updated the animal's location regularly and other data, the project found that vagility, the ability of an organism to move, declines in areas with human footprints by as much as half to 2/3 the distance than in places where there is little or no human activity. It is important that animals move, because in moving they carry out important ecological functions like transporting nutrients and seeds between different areas, said Marley Tucker, a biologist at Senckenberg Biodiversity and Climate Research Center and Goethe University, Frankfurt, and the study's lead author. The ability to move and find food helps keep some imperiled species viable. There has been exponential growth in data on wildlife movement as technology has evolved, opening new windows into the secret lives of animals. We used to have one dot on a map twice a day, said Roland Kays, a biologist at North Carolina State University who participated in the study. Now we have a point as much as every second and know exactly where they are going, how they are avoiding people, how they are crossing the road and catching prey. It's big for determining how animals die or where they die and how that affects populations. In fact, the science has advanced so much, it's clear that the protection of these critical corridors is lagging. Ryan Zinke, Secretary of the Interior Department, just announced a new effort to account for long-distance migrations that cross federal lands. Well, hey, that's, I guess, positive. We all know that animals go where animals want to go, and more often than not, that's dependent upon natural features like watersheds, Mr. Zinke said, rather than whether the land is publicly or privately owned. He signed an order to foster cooperation on migrations, working with ranchers to modify their fences, working with states to collaborate on sagebrush restoration, and working with scientists to better understand migration routes. The new migration study was made possible by MoveBank, a global repository scientific research on animal movement that has cast much new light on Vagility. Records of where animals can move can be shared with other researchers and combined with data on vegetative cover, elevations, and temperature anywhere on the globe from NASA and other sources. It's an example of open data and data sharing that allows you to answer questions and give data a second life, said Dr. Kays, who is also director of MoveBank. More research is needed to determine the reasons for the decline in Vagility and what that means to species. Less movement among animal population may also be caused by new food sources created by humans and that animals can take advantage of. A study of fishers, a member of the weasel family, looked at movements of the animals in a variety of habitat scenarios near Albany, New York, from fragmented to intact areas. The animals in suburban Albany have tiny home ranges, while the animals in state parks and forests had larger home ranges. Dr. Kays said animals in cities were more likely to get hit by cars, but also seemed to have a lot more food in terms of the rabbits and squirrels in suburbia. Predators may suffer more than other animals from restricted movement because they range over wider areas and encounter more development as they roam. Wolves are caught in a pinball game, stuck between fences and highways, and they can't get around as much as wolves in wilder situations, said Mark Hebblewhite, a wildlife biologist at the University of Montana who has a long-running study on wolves and elk in British Columbia and contributed data to the new paper. Understanding the movement of species is especially important as climate change drives species to seek more habitable terrain. Parks and preserves may offer less protection as animals migrate and increase the need for protection of corridors so some animals can move elsewhere. Wild animals on an intact landscape move in sync with their needs, Dr. Kaufman said. When you develop the landscape, it leads to less movement and there are less in tune with the naturally occurring pulse of the landscape. Lastly, news out of Greenland, a top secret US military base will melt out of the Greenland ice sheet. About 60 years ago, at the height of the Cold War, the US designed a network of top secret mobile nuclear launch sites buried in the Greenland ice sheet to prepare for possible war with Soviet Union. As Camp Century, which was part of the project Iceworm, soldiers lived in the ice, which enclosed the base so it wouldn't be completely buried in snow. Did I read this article like months ago? I feel like maybe I read something similar. I don't know. Camp Century was shut down in 1967, and the site was abandoned as Project Iceworm wound down. Back then, military planners assumed that the hazardous stuff buried at Camp Century, including diesel fuel, PCBs, and some radioactive coolant, would stay locked up in the Greenland ice sheet essentially forever. But now Greenland is warming because of climate change. Dangerous contaminants threaten to reemerge from the ice, potentially putting people in Greenland and maybe as far away as Arctic Canada at risk. Camp Century isn't the only US military installation abroad that's increasingly threatened by climate change. A Pentagon report from earlier this year, for example, noted that half of all US bases worldwide could be at risk. But Project Iceworm is a useful case study, argues Jeff Colgan, associate professor of political science and international studies at Brown University, who studied this in detail. That's partly because the question of who should take responsibility for Camp Century has become such a political hot potato. According to him, at this point, it isn't clear exactly who is responsible for cleaning it up. Over the phone, Colgan described the secondary effects of climate change, like the release of dangerous substances or infrastructure damage, as its knock-on effects. He pointed to the release of hazardous materials in Texas after Hurricane Harvey as another example. It creates a whole new type of politics, and it's becoming more important in a variety of ways. Colgan is author of a new paper in Global Environmental Politics that views the impact of climate change on military bases as not just an environmental problem, but as a political and diplomatic one. Project Iceworm goes to show just how politically complicated these situations can be. Camp Century was a result of a legal treaty between Denmark and the US, since Greenland was a Danish colony at the time. Motherboard contacted the US State Department to inquire about Camp Century and was referred to the US Department of Defense. A Defense Department spokesperson then referred our query to the government of Denmark. The Danish Foreign Ministry, which handles relations with the US and Greenland, referred Motherboard to the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland, an independent research institution under the Danish Ministry of Energy, Utilities, and Climate. In a follow-up phone call, a ministry spokesperson said decisions around the cleanup would be made once the science is settled. It's not a high priority. In fact, it's a barely known issue in Washington, Colgan told me. The only people who are really agitated are in Greenland, and they don't have a lot of leverage. Scientists aren't ignoring the problem. In 2016, a high-profile paper in Geophysical Research Letters predicted that Camp Century site could see primarily melting conditions by the year 2090 and described in detail all the hazardous stuff buried there. It's caused quite a reaction from scientists and the political system. Fleming Christensen, Deputy Director General of GEIS, told Motherboard in a phone interview, and it spurred them to study the site further. GEIS has been monitoring the Greenland ice sheet for years and is now tracking the Camp Century site. Specifically, in the summer of 2017, Christensen said a weather station was installed there, and scientists used radar last year to map what is locked up under the ice. The map should be available later this year. Climate data from Camp Century is publicly available online, although it will take some time to begin to notice longer-term trends. Politicians, meanwhile, have yet to sort out exactly what to do about the threat posed by climate change to military installations abroad, each one governed by what Colgan calls ad hoc arrangements. Colgan noted that the US Pentagon, at least, does seem to appreciate the dangers of climate change. Of the hundreds of US bases overseas, it's unclear how many of them are at the front lines of climate change, like Greenland, he said, adding that other sites, like low-lying Pacific Islands, are also certain to be impacted. Meanwhile, Camp Century is melting out. If there's something coming to the surface, you would like to know when this will happen, Christensen said. Not 2090, of course, right? Scientists are working on that part. Now it's up to governments to come up with a plan. Yeah. Not 2090. Probably in the next 20 years. I'm sure they'll be like, oh, but you know. Who knows if anybody's going to care about cleaning up a military site in 20 years, or if they will have the resources or the wherewithal to do so. Among the many things that we must clean up if we are to survive. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for your eyes and your ears and your conscience. Thank you all for your donations. You're very generous and kind donations that I've received over the last few weeks. If you would like to donate to this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.